a late-night ride, a sudden fall. And in an instant, the entire K-pop world was just turned upside down.
It really was.
Like the teasers dropped, the fandom went completely silent. And when the headlines broke, millions just held their breath.
Yeah, the fallout was immediate. It was the kind of cultural shockwave that just completely rewrites the rules of engagement overnight.
Oh, absolutely. Tearing through social media,
Yeah.
dominating national broadcasts. Welcome, StarScope K-Report.
Join us as we ride the Hallyu wave, uncovering the biggest K-pop comebacks, shocking industry controversies, and major K-drama updates.
Right, from internet-breaking rumors to historic chart milestones, we dive deep into the world of Korean entertainment.
And today, we are taking a massive stack of sources, right? Like police reports, agency statements, military guidelines.
And that highly contested CCTV footage. We have to unpack a story that has absolutely consumed the internet.
We're basically separating the rumors from the hard facts regarding the recent DUI incident involving BTS's Suga.
Exactly. Getting to the absolute bottom of that viral headline, you know the one. They lied. New Suga CCTV footage just exposed everything.
Right. So to really understand the sheer velocity of this scandal, we have to establish the baseline reality of that night first.
Yeah, bring us back to August 6th.
Right. So on August 6th, Suga Min-yoongi was found by patrolling officers after he fell off an electric vehicle. This was near his home in Hanam-dong.
Like right outside the highly exclusive 9-1 Hanam complex, right?
Exactly. So the officers approach to assist him, and they detect alcohol. So they administer a breathalyzer test.
And I mean, the results of that breathalyzer, that is what set the entire internet ablaze.
Yeah, it was high.
The blood alcohol concentration, the BAC, it was later reported as 0.227%, which, for context for you listening, that isn't just like a minor slip up over the line.
Not at all. I mean, the legal limit in South Korea is 0.03%.
Wow.
Yeah, and a BAC of 0.08% is the threshold where your driver's license is just automatically revoked.
So hitting 0.227%, I mean, that means the alcohol level is nearly 8 times the legal limit.
Exactly. Physiologically, that's a state of severe intoxication. Motor skills and judgment are significantly impaired at that point.
Right.
So in the eyes of South Korean law, it crosses a threshold that triggers very severe legal consequences.
Regardless of what kind of vehicle you are operating.
Exactly. But the vehicle itself is really where this entire narrative just fractured into a million pieces.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Because within hours of the news breaking, Big Hit Music and Suga both posted apologies on Weverse.
Right.
But they used a very specific phrase that immediately ignited a firestorm. They referred to the vehicle he was riding as an electric kickboard.
Right, an electric kickboard.
And Suga mentioned he'd only driven a short distance after having one beer.
And that terminology, that created a massive loophole controversy because the police quickly stepped in to publicly clarify that the vehicle was, in fact, not a kickboard.
No, it was not.
It was an electric scooter with a seat.
I have to pause here because if you aren't familiar with Korean traffic law, you might be thinking, kickboard, scooter, who cares? It's all the same thing.
Right, a lot of international fans were saying that.
Exactly. But legally, the difference between standing up and sitting down on these devices, it changes the entire prosecution landscape.
The legal distinction is absolute night and day. Because in South Korea, an electric kickboard, like the stand-up kind, is classified as a personal mobility device.
Okay, so what does that mean if you get caught?
Well, if you are caught driving one under the influence, you face a moderate administrative fine and the revocation of your license.
Right. Bad, but not criminal trial bad.
Right. But an electric scooter with a seat, that has a higher speed capacity and a larger motor displacement, meaning the law treats it like an automobile. So drunk driving a seated electric scooter carries a potential fine of 10 to 20 million Korean won.
Wow.
Or even 2 to 5 years in prison.
Which means the moment Big Hit used the word kickboard, the media and the public immediately accused the agency of trying to downplay the severity of crime.
Yeah, the optics were terrible.
And frankly, I just don't buy the agency's later excuse that this was a simple internal communication error. I mean, come on. Big Hit is a massive multi-billion-dollar corporate machine.
They definitely have layers of approval.
Exactly. They have entire legal departments reviewing every single comma before a crisis statement goes live on Weverse.
Right.
So calling it a kickboard felt like a calculated PR risk to soften the blow. And it completely backfired. It's like trying to put out a candle by dropping a match into a powder keg.
Yeah, a huge miscalculation.
If you know anything about K-pop fans, you know they analyze a blurry comeback teaser down to the pixel. Netizens notice every single detail. You cannot slide a technicality past them.
Well, the mechanics of crisis communication in the K-entertainment industry, they rely entirely on trust, right?
Yeah.
So once the public perceived that the agency was attempting to minimize the incident, basically to protect a global asset, that trust just vanished.
It was gone. And BIGHIT had to issue a second apology, right? Explicitly stating they didn't realize the vehicle's classification would change the legal responsibilities so drastically.
Yeah, but by then the narrative damage was already done. The public was primed to believe a cover-up was happening.
But wait till you hear what netizens uncovered next, because there is CCTV footage that poured actual gasoline on the fire.
Oh, this part is wild.
Because just when people thought the agency was lying, the national media decided to get involved.
Right. The major Korean news network, JTBC, aired CCTV footage on their newsroom broadcast.
Yeah.
And this footage was incredibly damaging.
It was shocking. It showed a person on a large, heavy-duty scooter aggressively speeding down a main road, going in the opposite direction of traffic, like zooming alongside full-size cars.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
Knetz absolutely erupted.
Yeah.
They took this footage as absolute proof of a cover-up. They were pointing at the screen saying, look, he wasn't going slowly, he wasn't on a kickboard, and he definitely didn't just go 500 meters.
The backlash was instantaneous and severe. But the underlying mechanics of modern broadcast journalism in the Hallyu era, they are driven by speed, not necessarily verification.
Clearly.
And the rush to secure that first viral headline about a BTS member, it led to a catastrophic journalistic failure.
Yeah.
Because that footage JTBC aired,
Yeah.
it was not Suga.
It was completely fake news.
Yeah.
It was a random person on a scooter, and a major national network just slapped a global pop star's name on it.
Which is just staggering.
But then, several days later, the DongA Ilbo released the actual, real exclusive CCTV footage of the incident. And it was a completely different reality.
It really was. The verified footage showed Suga riding very slowly on the sidewalk. He was wearing a helmet.
Right.
And as he approaches his apartment complex, he makes a left turn into the driveway, loses his balance, and falls over.
Right at the gate.
Yeah. He stands up, retrieves his helmet, and the patrolling officers who just happen to be nearby, they walk over to assist him.
So the real footage completely aligned with BIGHIT and Suga's original statements. He traveled a short distance, he wore a helmet, he fell at his front gate, and the police were right there.
Everything they originally claimed was essentially true.
And the relief in the fandom was immense, you know?
Yeah.
But it was immediately overtaken by just white-hot rage at the media.
Understandably so.
I mean, you have to question the integrity of this entire ecosystem. Reporters were clearly camping out, desperate for anything they could use, and they just grabbed the first grainy footage of a scooter they could find. It felt exactly like a coordinated smear campaign.
Well, the mobilization of the fandom in response to this false report is a fascinating study in digital power dynamic.
Oh, they did not hold back.
No, fans didn't just complain on social media, they weaponized bureaucratic channels. They submitted formal complaints to the Korea Communications Standards Commission.
The KCSC.
Right, demanding a formal review of JTBC's journalistic practices.
And it worked. JTBC had to issue an on-air apology during their broadcast, admitting the individual was not Suga. And they had to scrub the false videos from all their platforms. It was a massive victory for fan activism.
Truly. And hey, if you love staying updated on your favorites and getting to the actual truth behind the headlines, make sure you're subscribed to StarScope K Report, because we've got even bigger scoops ahead.
We really do.
Because as chaotic as the media circus was, the internal reaction within the fandom itself was about to become the most complex part of this entire story.
Oh, it was the great fandom civil war. The contrast between the domestic Korean reaction and the international reaction was incredibly stark.
Night and day.
You had two massive groups of people looking at the exact same set of facts and coming to entirely opposite moral conclusions.
Right, but to understand why the fans fractured, we really need to look at the timeline of the actual police investigation.
Yeah, let's get into August 23rd.
So on August 23rd, the legal process moved forward. Suga was summoned to the Yongsan police station for questioning. An interrogation that lasted for 3 hours.
Wow.
But the police made a significant administrative decision here. They explicitly stated they would not set up a formal photo line for the press.
And I need to explain this because the photo line is such a specific, brutal mechanism in Korean celebrity scandals.
It really is.
It's essentially a government-sanctioned walk of shame. Suspects are forced to stand in front of hundreds of flashing cameras and apologize before they even step foot inside the police station. It's designed to exert maximum psychological pressure.
Yeah, it's intense. So by skipping the formal photo line, the police were basically treating him as a regular civilian suspect rather than putting on a show for the media.
Which is fair.
Right. However, the press still swarmed the entrance anyway.
Of course they did.
And as he arrived, he stopped and bowed twice to the reporters, offering a public apology. Following the interrogation, he posted a second, deeply emotional handwritten apology on Weverse.
That letter was heavy. He expressed profound regret for tarnishing the name of BTS, acknowledging the pain he caused his members, and stating he would live with the repentance of his actions.
But for a vocal segment of the Korean public, an apology, no matter how sincere, was fundamentally insufficient.
Because of how DUI is viewed over there.
Exactly. To understand the domestic reaction, the K-Army perspective, we have to examine the cultural framework surrounding drunk driving in South Korea.
Right.
It is deeply condemned by society. It's often equated to attempted murder in the court of public opinion.
Which makes sense given the density of the cities.
Exactly. South Korea has a highly dense urban infrastructure, massive pedestrian traffic, and a history of tragic, high-profile DUI fatalities. That has led to incredibly strict laws like the Yoon Chung-ho Act.
Plus, Korea has incredibly accessible and cheap alternatives. They have robust late-night public transit and a massive industry of substitute drivers.
The Dari Unjan services.
Right, where you can pay a very small amount of money for someone to come drive your own car home for you. So when a public figure chooses to operate any vehicle while intoxicated, the public views it not just as a mistake, but as an act of immense arrogance.
And the visual manifestation of that domestic anger was striking. Protesters sent around 30 funeral wreaths to HYBE headquarters.
Which is so intense.
Yeah, these gunjo wreaths are a powerful cultural symbol in Korea. Sending them to a living person is an aggressive statement of social severance, bearing messages like, "You let go of our hands."
Heartbreaking.
There were protest banners hung in front of his apartment citing the 0.227% BAC. A highly mobilized segment of domestic fans actively demanded his permanent departure from the group, feeling the moral contract between idol and fan was irrevocably broken.
But then, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you had the reaction from I-Army, the international fans. And their cultural framework approaches this entirely differently.
Right.
For them, loyalty to the artist is paramount, and they view the Korean societal response as basically a dystopian cancel culture.
Yeah, they felt it was a massive overreaction.
Totally. They defended him fiercely. They organized massive global streaming parties and trended his entire solo discography worldwide to drown out the negativity.
And the international fans were heavily focused on the disproportionate nature of the punishment, right? They argued that the public shaming was entirely out of scale with the actual crime, particularly noting that it was a scooter fall resulting in 0 property damage and 0 injuries to anyone else.
Yes. And Ines were pointing out the glaring hypocrisy in the media coverage, too.
Right, the article counts.
Yeah, they tracked the data. They found that there were over 1,400 articles written about Suga's scooter incident in a single week. 1,400.
That's a staggering number.
Meanwhile, during that exact same time frame, a professional Korean baseball player was caught actually driving a full-sized car drunk, and it received barely a fraction of the coverage.
Right.
International fans felt the media was exploiting a global icon for clicks, turning a misdemeanor into a digital blood sport.
And they retaliated economically, organizing boycotts of trips to Korea, canceling vacations, trending hashtags like Korean police corrupt to protest what they viewed as an unfair, sensationalized investigation.
It's just like watching a massive K-drama plot twist unfold in real life.
Yeah.
Where a beloved bias enters a moral gray area.
That's a good way to put it.
Half the audience demands a redemption arc because they recognize that human beings make flawed decisions and deserve grace, especially when no one gets hurt.
Right.
But the other half demands a tragic exit because a rigid moral code was broken. Neither side is backing down because their fundamental values are completely different.
And this deep ideological divide made the eventual legal resolution incredibly highly anticipated, which later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the final verdict and the staggering fine that finally closed this chaotic case.
Because the military and legal dust did eventually settle. Let's look at the military aspect first, actually, which was a massive point of anxiety for the fandom.
It was a huge concern.
Because Suga is currently serving his mandatory military enlistment as a social service agent. Fans were terrified he would be dragged in front of a military court or face an extension of his service time?
Well, the Military Manpower Administration clarified their jurisdiction over the matter quite early on. They confirmed that Suga would face no additional military penalties.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. The underlying mechanism here is based on duty hours. Because the incident occurred late at night, entirely outside of his official working hours, the military code does not apply.
So he's off the clock, so it's strictly a civilian jurisdiction matter.
Exactly. There's no double jeopardy where he gets punished by both the military and the civilian courts. His service timeline is locked in, and he will complete his mandatory service in June of next year as originally scheduled.
Okay, so with the military side cleared, the focus shifted entirely to the civilian law.
Yes, and despite the severe potential penalties for operating a seated electric scooter with a BAC of 0.227%, the Yongsan police station forwarded the case to the prosecution without detention.
Meaning he didn't have to stay in jail.
Right. This indicates that the authorities did not view him as a flight risk or an ongoing danger to the public that required holding him in a cell during the proceedings.
And it ended in what's called a summary indictment, which honestly makes sense for a case like this.
It's very common.
There's no need for a massive, dramatic public trial when they already have the failed breathalyzer test, his confession, and the real CCTV footage. A summary indictment is basically the legal system's way of fast-tracking an obvious penalty through paperwork, right?
Yeah.
It bypasses the courtroom entirely.
Exactly. The judge reviews the police findings, the BAC results, and the video evidence, and issues a ruling based purely on the documents.
So what was the final ruling?
The Seoul Western District Court handed down the final verdict, a fine of 15 million Korean won, which translates to roughly 11,000 US dollars.
$11,000.
Yeah.
I think for the fans worldwide, hearing that final financial verdict was the ultimate concluding sigh of relief.
It really offered some closure.
The legal ordeal is officially over. He paid a heavy fine, his driver's license was revoked, he endured a blistering public scrutiny cycle, and now the case is closed.
Yeah.
The global army fan bases even released a unified official statement shortly after the verdict, declaring that they continue to support all 7 members of BTS.
It brings a definitive legal conclusion to the incident. However, the cultural and systemic questions it raised, they will undoubtedly continue to ripple through the industry.
For sure. And hey, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a drop of KT, because the discussions around how this industry operates are never truly over.
Really, if we step back from the specific details of the scooter and the BAC, this entire event forces us to examine the landscape of information in the Hallyu era.
Exactly. Because if a major respected national news network can broadcast completely fake CCTV footage of a global icon just to secure a viral headline and capitalize on public outrage, what does that mean for the future of K-entertainment journalism?
It forces us to ask, is anyone actually immune to the clickbait machine? I mean, if a systemic media failure of this magnitude can happen to a member of the biggest music group on the planet, how can any consumer trust the initial reports of a breaking scandal?
It really makes you mull over how our media consumption directly shapes idol culture. Like, when we reward sensationalism with our clicks and our outrage, are we creating an environment where the truth is secondary to the spectacle? Something to think about the next time a shocking headline drops.
Definitely.
You've been listening to StarScope K-Report, where Eric and Minji bring you the stories shaping K-pop, K-dramas, and the global Hallyu wave. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.